Welcome to another episode of Hiring and Empowering Solutions. Today I am just going to do a thought download here. I have been speaking with so many law firms, and the common theme I'm hearing from attorneys as well as their support team that law firms are exhausted and exhausting. So let's unpack this and talk about this in detail. So the attorneys are feeling so often I'm hearing, I'm sick of listening to myself. I feel like I sound like a broken record, or they're holding back. So the exhaustion is just amplified because they're not speaking their truth. They're not speaking into the problems that they're seeing and or the way that they want to receive information, data, KPIs, work in progress, matters, things of that nature so they can sleep at night. I had an attorney call me over the weekend and text me and say, can I hop on a quick call with you? And he was sharing that he just was feeling like so many things were falling through the cracks. And on Saturday morning, decided to log into their CRM and pull a report of all open matters and just see what's going on in the State of the Union with work in progress, and literally could not discern the State of the Union for open matters, knowing they had just got hired by 6 new clients a week before, and they don't see the workflow, next actions, triggers, change, to-dos, things of that nature. So the anxiety starts to rise. And they spend the whole weekend using this report as a weapon, of just beating the heck out of themselves and their team in silent, having no next action or ability to get clear and to gain clarity. And then walking into their meeting on Monday morning and coming in with, pretty hot and heavy, rightfully so. But that's how they were starting out their week. So the weekend that is designed for rest and rejuvenation. Curiosity kills the cat, so to speak. They go into their CRM and find a ton of quote unquote evidence that, things are falling through the cracks. And as a business owner, your greatest fear is that you're either going to get fired or your reputation's going to get tarnished. And so coming in and starting that week exhausted because they're ruminating in their head over this report, and then coming in and asking the same questions where it shows up like nothing's ever good enough. And that it's just exhausting because we keep having the same conversation over and over again, which isn't based on solution. So the attorney feels like this. And again, the team member feels like it as well, in regards to where they're exhausted because there's no way to plan your work and work your plan. And then they feel, there's a trickle-down effect from the professional law firm administrator or COO or CEO, whatever term resonates with you. And it's just a domino effect. So how do we get out of this vicious cycle of feeling exhausted, whether you're a team member or you're an attorney, and feeling like our conversations and our communication are exhausting? Either that, we're sick of listening to ourselves. I always say that to my team. I can't stand to even listen to myself anymore. I feel like a broken record. I feel like I'm coming in and I'm running everyone through the ringer, even though honestly, I hold back so much. And I hear this from attorneys all the time. I'm not even saying half of the stuff that I want to say. So, I said to this attorney, let's hop on, let me come to your Monday meeting and let me hop on the meeting with you and your team. And getting there, holding the space and creating a container for the attorney to just dump everything that is whirling around in his head and heart and causing this level of anxiety. And it just was a simple question of, okay, if we fixed every problem and these decreased your stress level and your anxiety level and your frustration level by 50% by next week's team meeting in 1 week, and we're sitting here, what would have to be occurring? And I just took notes and allowed for the attorney to just dump and be very clear and concise in regards to everything that they wanted to see. Then I reflected back and kind of clarified with the team members depending on the department. So number one was the calendar. There's nothing on our calendar. 2 weeks ago, we were slammed. I couldn't even go to the bathroom, get a drink, what have you, which is great. We got hired, a lot of fantastic meetings, but then I wake up this week and there's nothing on the calendar. And I'm looking at the rest of September and I know it's the nature of the business. And I'm like, time out. It is, but you have no data to anchor this to. So is it that the phone's not ringing? Is it that the phone's ringing, but people are not wanting to move forward with the initial meeting? Is it that people need to think about it? Is that we're not sending them engagement? What the heck's going on here? So lack of information is a root of anxiety. And anxiety is the catalyst for exhaustion and showing up like you are exhausting to people in your communication. And so when we kind of unpacked it and I gave the attorney the opportunity to do a thought load and really name the things, I'm like, name 3 to 5 things. Well, it was 3 and it was very clear. It came out as 5, but then when we really split it apart and anchored down to 3 things. Number 1, the CRM, that we actually are following the workflow and then I can open up the database and know the state of the union on every file. Number 2 is that the calendar is full, but not just with all initial meetings, that there's a balance and a healthy balance in regards to money meetings, non-money meetings, sales meetings, review meetings, existing client meetings, whatever it might be. And then number 3 was that people are showing up with proposed solutions in our daily huddle, that I'm not having to pull information out of people or hearing, oh, I'm fine, I'm good, what have you, but then getting 14 emails an hour or 2 hours into the day asking questions when we have this dedicated, uninterrupted, sacred time for huddle to identify and name our top 3 for the day and to indicate where we're stuck, jammed up, or need clarification to move the file forward, to over-communicate with the clients. Great. So I said, attorney, how you feel now? I feel great that I was able to identify this and share it with the team. And it's interesting because the attorney kept inserting, I don't mean to be complaining. I'm not finger pointing to anyone. I'm like, time out, like take all the emotional stuff out of it. Just anchor to the facts and say it. You don't have to have a pre-qualifier. You don't have to have 10 million disclaimers next to it. We're all assuming this is an adult conversation and you're not trying to show up hot and heavy and negative. Just name what you want to see so we can get out of this phase of exhausted and exhausting. Then when I had the team, each person do that, it was fascinating because their wishes, their dreams, their goals, and get themselves out of this place of constantly feeling like they're overwhelmed or they can't catch up on their work and what have you, were identical to the attorneys when we really, really, really stripped it down to the data. And what was really cool about that is then when the attorney was sharing about the calendar, I just want a balanced calendar. I don't want to be jam-packed for one day, then the next week I have nothing on my calendar. It causes anxiety and it causes me mental anguish. Well, it's fascinating because when I go to the client service coordinator, I'm like, do you know the formula for success? Do you understand how many initial meetings we need to have, how many strategy meetings we need to have, how many closing of the file meetings? No, the client service coordinator had no idea. Like, what would it mean to you if you had that recipe for success, if you had that formula? And it was laid out and you understood how to navigate the calendar like a jigsaw puzzle. She's like, oh my goodness, that would be great. I wouldn't feel like a failure every single day. Now, I just want to stop you. How great was it for an entrepreneur, and horrifying at the same time, to hear that their client service coordinator really, really cared enough that they were going home every night feeling exhausted and feeling complete defeat. that's music to an entrepreneur's ear. In fact, it crushed his heart. He's like, oh my gosh, I hate that you're feeling like a failure. Like, giant miss on our part in the training and the onboarding that we didn't share the formula for success for you in regards to how to navigate the calendar. People miss this all the time. So go the calendar, so go cash flow. Like, the calendar is king. Calendar is queen in the law firm. Absolutely. So it was really exciting to see that. I'm like, okay, great. Let's do a mini workshop tomorrow. Let's hop on the phone. Let's get on a Zoom for an hour. Let's unpack this in regards to what we need it to look like. And then back into how we're going to navigate this and fill it, and how to go 2 weeks out and move people up, how to move people back, how to navigate the calendar so we can meet our monthly goal from a revenue perspective as well as from a workflow perspective. Because when the paralegal starts talking and we go into it, it's the same thing it broke down to. Workflow in the CRM, knowing the state of the union, because they had a couple outsourced drafters and things of that nature, which was impacting the paralegals' time, also impacting the client service coordinators because they couldn't plan on when they were doing final package preparation, et cetera. It was always the last minute. In fact, on this call, they're like, and of course, when we have last minute is the day that the copier decides to bite the dust. And so then there we are with, running out of ink, and it's smearing and it's jamming up and it's the double-sided, whatever it is. You all know the drill. It happens. You can plan on it and expect it. That's why you don't want to be last minute Larry. That's why you want to be able to plan your work and work your plan. So when you're sitting in a place of exhausted, and you feel like every conversation you show up that you are landing like you're exhausting everyone, and whether it's true or not. And also a piece of being exhausted and showing up exhausting, my experience is that you're holding back too. You're not even giving half of what it is that's driving you crazy or making you nuts. So the exercise is to get pen to paper and really name. You've heard me talk about this if you've been listening to my podcast for a while now. I am such a huge, huge fan of putting pen to paper. So writing down everything that is robbing your energy, keeping you up at 2 o'clock in the morning, feeling like you can't have no trust in your team. And I don't mean as people. It's typically in the process. Sometimes it's people, that's a whole different conversation, but I can't trust that I can let go of stuff because I'm afraid what's falling through the cracks. I'm afraid of where we're not delivering. I'm afraid of where we're going to get fired by a client or badmouthed by a referral source, whatever it is, and get really clear on that. And then get really clear on where you may be showing up exhausting in a conversation, meaning your energy, your tonality, the topic of conversation. I feel like every Monday I show up and I'm constantly like, where are we at with this file? Where are we at with that file? Why didn't we do this? Why didn't we have that meet this deadline? I'm looking at the calendar and I'm not seeing X, Y, and Z. I'm going into the CRM and I see that there's that there's 10 million unfinished tasks or to-dos out there. Or there's none in there. And I know we just got hired by these 3 clients. And I woke up in the middle of the night thinking about the Smiths. And I have no idea if we followed up on anything that I put on the intake sheet because it's not dated. It's not documented in the CRM. Or I just have no idea because I show up in these daily huddles. I show up in the weekly meetings and nobody's mentioned the Smiths. And they hired us 5 days ago. So I'm feeling like I'm constantly a broken record and I'm noticing these things, but I'm holding back. I'm not saying it. So when you're holding back, you're harming your entire team from an opportunity for growth, just like we discovered with the calendar. Another thing we discovered that the client service coordinator who's responsible for the calendar had no idea what the formula for success was in regards to scheduling and stacking the calendar. Well, we are having a mini workshop on that tomorrow, and I can't wait. It's going to be a massive breakthrough. It's going to impact production and the paralegals and the attorneys and the client experience and referral sources, and the list goes on and on and on. So that, in addition to, another thing that we found out was that nobody could plan their work because nobody was holding the outsourced vendors, the outsourced drafting and what have you, accountable. There wasn't a path and plan. There wasn't a system in place. So we identified that in a lickety split, and that was taken care of. All of this in like a 57-minute meeting. So once I gave the attorney on that Saturday, get really, really clear what you're exhausted about. And what would be a home run? What would be a win for you if these following things, like I said, it started out 5, we distilled it down, it was 3. And then where you feel like you're being exhausting in your conversation, either between your 2 ears because you're holding back from communicating because you don't want to upset people or hurt them, and or when you're showing up constantly like a broken record. And the same thing goes for your team. A lot of times with the team, they're not saying anything because they're like, well, I shouldn't be asking these questions because it's not my business, or it's not my department, or it's not my job. I don't want to upset Susie and feel like I'm throwing her under the bus, what have you. No, stop all that emotional garbage. Like, just, it's an adult conversation. Assume that. And that in the next week, in your next meeting, if you don't have them scheduled, schedule a mini retreat, whatever it might be, and give this exercise to everyone in the team and be really, really clear. And hold this space that you can hold each other accountable to your goals and dreams, sometimes in spite of yourselves. And that you're going to turn these dangers, you're going to turn this exhaustion into opportunities, and to dig really deep for the truth and then for the light. Because it's available. I swear, I just saw it transform in less than 40 hours. It was so cool and amazing. And so you can, when everybody has the ability to come for this exercise and then treat it like a mini retreat, mini workshop, and whiteboard it and really get clear on, okay, what would be a home run? Where am I feeling exhausted? And make it about people, make it about process, make it about file management. Leave the emotional stuff out of it. Stick to the facts without the emotion in regards to that. And then everybody whiteboard theirs, and then be able to figure out where you're feeling like a broken record, where you're feeling exhausted in your communication or you're holding back in communication, and where you can have a breakthrough there. I promise you, this can be the most enlightening conversation that you will have in your practice this entire year. We're in the home stretch. We're at the, 2-minute warning, if you will, for year end. And it's an opportunity for you to just really start identifying this and then be able to allow people and help people to let go of the pain and really trust in themselves to accomplish their goals and do their works, and be able to, for all of you to really have an achievable, exciting path and plan. And if you come at it from a place of compassion and passion about being able to break through in this, in the communication and the conversation, in addition to the system and the process piece of it, it's amazing. It is amazing for you. And when you're holding a safe ground for it in an adult conversation and giving people the vulnerable opportunity to share, what's working, what's not working. And yes, there's going to be feelings attached to it. And I'm not saying discredit the feelings. There has to be a place for the feelings to be identified, but then also anchoring to the solution. And this is how you move out of stop focusing 90% of your time on problems and start spending 90% of your time focusing on solutions. So I'd love to hear from you. Drop comments in the show notes. Reach out to us on our website, hiringandempowering.com. Go ahead to the contact page and schedule a discovery meeting with me. I would love to help you and your team with this. And you can send me over your homework and your exercise, and we can really just distill it down and find that breakthrough for you to get out of this place for attorneys and team alike, and attorneys and team together, to really transform this essence of exhaustion and exhausting. Because when you are sitting in that place, it's because you're sitting in a place of wonder and worry, and you're not putting that pen to paper and then getting to the facts, getting to the knowledge, and then getting into action with the accountability and the follow through. So let us know how you do.